Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jared Rand, and welcome to the Global Guided Meditation Call for Saturday, July 8, 2023, at 3:15 p.m. Eastern. The word surrender often confuses people because the ego mind, which they're usually in, identifies surrender as giving up or letting go of things. In other words, you're losing things. That's how the ego mind works. And surrender gives you the eyes to see God. And everything that is brought to these eyes becomes divine. Osho. So the question rises at times, what is God? The source of God is the foundation of our very being. It is our essential essence, our true life force, and the very fabric of our soul. When we can fully relax inside ourselves, we create room to fully connect with this divine source from which every life experience emanates. The deeper we can let go and rest into our body and mind, the deeper we dive down the rabbit hole, discovering that this experience of God is the foundational truth of who and what we really are. So, in a nutshell, we are God. All of us. When we fully realize that God exists inside us, there is a feeling of deep relief, like nothing you've ever experienced in your entire life. It's as if you were holding your breath underwater all this time and have exploded up to the surface for your first breath of air. You feel like you can take in life in its totality with such a great lightness and buoyancy that you often feel like you're floating on air. To lift our consciousness is to ground it deeply. To do this, all that is needed is the state of surrender. To completely surrender means we are not only willing to let go of our mind and every thought inside our mind, yet that willingness is also relieved of its duty. We have completely let go. Now, this is a continual process, a perpetual release every day, where you no longer are holding on tight to anything. Your ego's desires move to the back burner of the stove of your life, and you trust the synchronistic flow of this universe instead. Trust takes the front burner over desire. And you choose to surrender to each experience, not because you have to, but because it feels so good. There's this constant merging with what is that feels lighter and more free on the inside. And from this place, whatever you want is what God wants. Your will becomes God's will. And God's will becomes your will. You become grounded in the divine reality. This grounded, enlightened state only happens through total, continuous state of surrender. And this is difficult for this civilization because, again, we've been programmed a whole different way by other people's thoughts. Now, here's an example. And when you love someone, you love them, but you are not attached to them. Isn't that a twist? When you love someone, you love them, but you are not attached to them. You let them go. You surrender. That's with everything. And for many, that's not easy to do. That's why it takes practice. That's why in these meditations, you'll hear me repeating things over and over and over and over again. The reason I do that is so that it eventually sinks in. And that's how we're constructed. It's like when you read a book. You read it, you thought you liked it. You read it again, you pick up more things. You read it again, you pick up more things. So it's an absorption factor. Oftentimes when you've read something, you'll forget about it. Unless you read it again, unless you have total recall or photographic memory. But on average, you'll read it again, you'll pick up things that you'd miss. So the big question that I invite everyone to ask yourself today, what causes you not to be grounded in God? What choices are you making that aren't allowing you to enjoy your life, relax into your body, and trust the divine? What causes you not to be grounded in God? What choices are you making that aren't allowing you to enjoy your life, relax into your body, and trust the divine? This is a unique and personal answer to everyone. Yet there's a 99% chance it has something to do with being wrapped up in attachment to desire. Attachment to any one desire is what makes all of us think we're separate from God. Being deep in desire makes us think that we need to go someplace better, have more money and things, become a better person, all so that we can eventually find happiness, fulfillment, and peace later on. Desiring all these things makes us reach, push, and lunge out for the carrot and overlook the God source that is already within us here now. Desire is a tricky thing because we also need desire to keep life alive, flowing, and karmically moving. Without desires, we would all become sleeping slugs in puddles of warm mud. This may sound nice to some people, yet honestly, how many years can one really enjoy this? The secret of having a great relationship with your desires is trusting that all your wishes are also God's wishes for you. Know that the universe is a team player who is on your team, doing everything necessary to manifest your needs at the right time and place. Now, you may believe that the timing is for you is a certain time and that you want that to happen. 9 times out of 10, it doesn't. It just doesn't happen when we want it to happen. The universe has other things in mind, and the universe it knows better than we do. So it knows better than we do. And every time that most of the time when you request something out to the universe from your heart mind, it sends you more than what you asked for. Desire is a tricky thing because we also need desire to keep life alive, flowing, and karmically moving, right? If you should ever believe that God's will and your will are different, your ego is playing a game with you. If you should ever believe that God's will and your will are different, your ego is playing a game with you. You've probably said there's some times where people will say, when they're communicating with themselves, let God's will be done. Well, that's your will too. You're the God, God's will. You only think that you are trapped in a state of difficulty and suffering because there is some idea that we are separate. This is what ego is all about. Ego is simply attention and identity, a separate goal-oriented mind inside us that is all about serving the little me to attain its personal success and agenda. It has nothing to do with merging with existence. Nothing. So are you living from your microcosmic self or your macrocosmic self? Try living with both and see what occurs. Only living from ego's needs, always leads to future suffering. So you might ask, well then why is the ego there to begin with? Why? It's so we can discover again who and what we are and master the ego mind. So it stands there in kind of a form of challenge. Most of us throughout this life, throughout any lifetime, we end up being in servitude to the ego mind. All the way till when we leave the body. That's the majority on this planet. There are, however, a handful of people that do discover, and it's an ongoing learning experience, they do discover that they are not the body. They do discover that they are the God within the body. And then they spend the rest of their life communicating and communing with the God that they are. And they practice this every day. And they've let go. What it means is they've surrendered to everything, so they're not attached to anything. They enjoy things, but they're not attached to them. If they were to lose them tomorrow, it wouldn't be an issue. Most of us, however, are attached to things. Okay? And we're always worrying and stressing and fearing that the things that we're attached to, we're afraid that we may lose them. And that's part of the suffering. And this is what most of us are afraid of. Losing things. Not having them. So once we understand that only living from ego's needs always leads to future suffering, I don't think any of us can contest that. This is what perpetuates the cycle of needing, having, possessing, wanting, and then grasping for more. This is what perpetuates the cycle of needing, having, possessing, wanting, and then grasping for more. True surrender is perpetually trusting. That's another tough one. You just, people, they just can't just all of a sudden say, okay, I'm going to surrender everything and I'm going to be in perpetual trust. It is a very deep letting go of the ego's ideas about what you want and don't want. Now, so these are the ego's ideas, not yours. When you do let go, you start abiding in the sacred home and heart where God is. And manifesting your desires simply happens and feels like extra icing on the cake. Knowing this is true wisdom and the source of where real freedom, empowerment, love, and lightness will shine through. You can only manifest in the now, in the heart mind. And that's what just about everybody on this planet misses. They try to manifest through the ego mind. Okay? And that's suffering. It's immediate suffering. When you manifest through the heart mind, it's automatic. You see the big difference. It's huge. And then people that go through the ego mind try to manifest frustrated, disappointed, angry, upset, irritated. So focusing on the now through the breath. Okay. You want to sleep real fast? You want to go to sleep real fast at night? Focus on your breath. Go into the heart mind. And you'll know, everybody knows, that's not difficult. People say, how do you know when you're in the heart mind? Because everything else is gone. The mind chatter, the worry, the stress, the fear, the anxiety, it's all gone. It becomes totally silent. And you're out like a light. You don't remember falling asleep, but you fall asleep. And then when you wake up in the morning, you immediately go back into the now. Focus on your breath. Listen to your breath. It'll automatically put you in the now. From the now is when you manifest. We're always manifesting things. But when you want something, right, and you're not attached to it, but you want it, you focus on that while you're in the heart mind, while you're in the now. And you send that to the universe. And you let it go. That's a big secret that many people don't know about. And then when you tell them about it, they don't know how to do it. But once you start focusing on your breath, everything leaves. Because it's not in yesterday or tomorrow. So with yesterday and tomorrow out of the way, you don't have any suffering. You really don't have worrying, stress, and fear. It's gone. But as soon as you go back into the ego mind, yesterday and tomorrow, suffering begins anew. And how does that come to be? It's because of how we've been programmed. Knowing the fact that you know that you have been programmed by other people's thoughts, then forgive all those people. Let that go. Because they had no clue either. And then you clean out, you let go, you surrender all of that pre-programming. And then you start putting your own thoughts in, your own programming. When you dump the slate on a hard drive, right? You dump the hard drive on a computer. There's nothing left. It's an empty void. So then you reprogram it. You put data in it, right? So it begins to function. It's the same with us. we replace the old thought structure that we've been programmed with our thoughts. We clean it out, surrender, forgive, let it all go, and then we start putting in our thoughts. And then people say, well, how do you know it's your thought? Because you're sending it out. See, because when the programming that we have now, we've got 60,000 thoughts every 24 hours coming in, incessantly, 24/7. And those aren't our thoughts, because they're coming in. Now, once you understand that, you then begin to shift into sending thoughts out. Those are your thoughts. As you're identifying the thought, you're moving it into creation, you're giving it energy, and you're manifesting it. Now, oftentimes we will take thoughts from the 60,000 plus, and we will make those our thoughts. And we'll do the same thing, because we believe through the ego mind that those are our thoughts. And that's been a trick on us for a very long time. You could literally say to yourself, you try this tonight when you go to bed, okay? When you lay down, put the covers on, put your head on the pillow. First thing you do, listen to your breath. You start listening to your breathing. The body will pretty much do it on its own. You listen to your breathing, and you focus on the breath. You're in a comfortable position. You're in bed, right? You'll notice, and see, it's not like you'll be focused on things disappearing. They will just be gone. It's amazing. The chatter, and if it doesn't go away, you know you're still in the ego mind. So that's your checkpoint. So you'll know, okay, that's my ego mind. I desire to be, I want to be in the heart mind. So I'm going to focus on my breath. And before you know it, it's total silence. And you stay there. And you'll be out like a light. You won't even remember going to sleep. And then they go do a very, very first thing in the morning, before you even open your eyes. But you're getting ready to wake up. Keep your eyes closed, focus on your breath. You get in the habit of doing that, see? And so you relax more. And you're not so much in a hurry, a rush. Because we're always in a rush. We're always fighting life. That's why we're in a rush. Why do you rush your life? Because you're fighting life. You're afraid. You're afraid what? That you won't get there. And that's the ego mind's insecurity. So we're always rushing and hurrying, and that's really damaging to our souls. But you'll see, this way in the morning, you'll ease back. You determine how your day is going to go. You determine. Each of us determine how our day goes. Okay? When we are not consciously aware that we determine that, it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. Things will happen and we can't figure out why they happen. They just come down. And we don't know that we're doing it. We don't know it. We think, what the heck? You ever had a day that just didn't go right? We all have, more than once, right? And the tumbling that you go through emotionally with it. And then, you get to the end of the day and you get home and you're kind of like bruised. And then you might say to yourself, what did you do to deserve this? A lot of people will say that to themselves, or out loud or to themselves. What did you do to deserve this? You manifested it. You created it. You see, when then you start understanding and you embrace that, you say, I created this day. So you're able to look at things. You kick back and you look at the day. You look at why the things happen. Basically, why you created, manifested those things to happen. And it's a fine line because we're so ingrained in listening to the ego mind. It's the majority of the people on this planet listen to the ego mind. They're the slaves to the ego. Why do you think? Now, you take a look at the planet. You take a look at all the people and all of your travels in this lifetime. And if you're fortunate enough to discover that you begin to realize, and this is when you go into the now and you focus on the now, and you go within, but you start to realize is that all these people are mastered by the ego mind. Like the handful of people of beings that run the planet, right? Now, they manifest things like we do. So they manifest war because with war, to them, through their ego minds, they make money. This is we look at this from afar. We're not in it, okay? Remember, we've left the mind alone. But we look at all this stuff. And so we understand that. What comes with that? Well, a lot of us gods have to leave the bodies prematurely with war. And another one is insecurity, the ego mind has. So those being that are their master is their ego mind. So the insecurity is that they never can have enough money. They never can. And you see this, when you see it, it's confirmation. So you know who's being completely mastered by their ego mind. And then there's some in between, they give it a feeble attempt to maneuver out of that control and begin mastering. In other words, switch it. You become the master. They become the slave or servant, however you want to label it. So and then you begin to understand why the things happen that happen on this planet. And you don't look at it from a chagrined energy. You look at it from the standpoint of curiosity that this has occurred. And everywhere you look, you're not judging, you're learning, and you're experiencing all of this. So this is how you begin to learn about who and what you are. Because it always starts with you before it can start with anybody else. And step by step, surely, you begin to surrender and let go of all the programming, and you replace that programming with new programming, which is the fact that you are the God. You've always been the God, and you always will be the God. Forever and ever and ever and beyond. And once we ourselves are able to verify and confirm that for ourselves, then everything changes. Hatred, anger, fear, worry, stress, aggressions melt away. When you're happy, and there's been times where all of us have been happy at times in this life, filled with joy and excitement and everything. But when you discover that you're the happiness within that body, that you're the joy, you're the bliss, you're the trust, the confidence, the faith, what do you think happens? you want for nothing. Everything comes to you, and it does. Key is that you don't know it, and some things come along that the universe sends you, and since you're still in the ego mind, you miss them. You don't view them from curiosity. You just say, nah, or not at all. It just passes by. And believe you me, these bodies that were made for us are super powerful. And they don't seem to be right now. Because, they seem to be vulnerable, right? You seem to have issues, we have issues, and all this stuff that they've put on the planet. But when these bodies are operating to their peak efficiency, which none of us have experienced yet, then you heal instantaneously. And you're super healthy all the time. And then the food that we eat becomes super healthy because we want that. We won't put things in our bodies that's been tainted or manipulated. I get the question sometimes, can light destroy dark? Okay. And we're not talking about, this is a misconception, we talk that darkness, so nighttime's darkness, evil, right? We're not talking about that. The darkness that we're talking about is the opposite of love, is the opposite of good. Hate, bad, dishonesty, that's the dark that we're talking about. Not the sunlight, okay? That's not the light we're talking about. Because we're not talking about the dark of night and the daylight of day, the sunlight of the day. We're talking about these vibrational frequencies. Can light destroy dark? So in bicameral age, we would look at that way. We would worship the sun, and we would go by the sun. When it was dark, we would sleep. When it was light, we would work. But that didn't have anything to do with the gods within us. This is a question that's been asked throughout the centuries. Can light destroy dark? The higher the harmonics, the less the dark. The higher that you move yourself closer and closer to the God that you are, henceforth your vibrational frequency increases. The more you increase your vibrational frequency of happiness, love, joy, peace, kindness, generosity, humbleness, you will increase your vibrational frequency, your harmonics. As you do that, less and less dark can be, which means hatred, anger, judgment. That's the dark we're talking about. So as long as you stay, and it doesn't mean that you know you stay, because maybe you have not discovered yet. I mean, truly, with confidence, faith, and trust that you are the God in that body. There's no question about it. You are the God in that body. And it's just like saying, what is life? Life is God. That's why we say Life is the highest supreme value in the universe. And when you leave the mind in you as a watcher, you watch all this, you begin to understand why this society on this planet, this the human psyche, which is the society, and why we respond the way we do with the programming that we have received, that life is not the highest value in the universe on this planet. Because other things through the dark, which is hatred, anger, fear, greed, dishonesty, manipulation, is prevalent. Do you know why? This is a good one. Because it's easier for us to be dark. Even though we fear it, we should embrace it. Right? The angry parts of ourselves. When I say embrace, right, you're embracing the dark parts of yourself, which is anger, fear, disappointment, greed, revenge, all of those lower frequencies. Hatred. And so that's the dark parts of us. And so when we embrace those dark parts and we know that they're dark and we're okay with it, we surrender. We by doing that, we continually increase our vibrational frequency by choice, right? Not by trick or trade, but by choice. So when we discover that, we automatically know that I don't really care to get upset. Been there before. We all have, more than once. I don't care to get upset. Then someone might be there, like, the devil's advocate, right? Poking you, saying, yeah, but this, and this. And you just negate that and say, I just don't really care to engage that. I know what it does to me. I know the frequencies all too well. And it's a downward path in lower frequency. And it takes me a while to move myself back into high frequency. When you look at someone, you say they're a dark one, right? It's because you sense the parts in you that they fully have embraced and are practicing. It's a difference. You can fully embrace the dark parts of you, but you don't practice them. You embrace them, you understand them, you've accepted them, and that's it. And that's how you leave them. People say, you mean to tell me that you're never going to get upset? Oh, you'll get upset in higher frequency. But you'll know what it means. See, you'll know that if you step that way, you go into lower vibrational frequency. And this is with everything. For all of us. In this life. So it's identifying. Where we never identified before. We just kind of did it. And by us choosing to go with the flow, we're just footloose, fancy free. And it may some people disagree, but when it's all said and done, why plan anything? Really? Why go to all the extent? Why not just let God go with it? Let the God that you are go with it. Just go with the flow. Aren't you going to plan anything? No, let's just go. It'll be fun. It's an unknown. And a lot of people can't do that because they're so fixated on structure. It's so ridiculous that they have to have this structure. It's just like on a whim. Some of us have done that. Yeah, heck, let's just go on a trip. Where to? I don't know. Let's just drive. Go on a trip. No specific area. Just start driving. Pack the bags and head on out. But see, this control factor on the ego mind's part on the planet where we feel guilty if we don't do things, right? Every day, if we aren't doing something, we feel guilty. And instead of understanding is that you, all of us, deserve the best of everything, period. The argument that has been ingrained in this is that we are not deserving, that we don't deserve to have whatever, say. How many people have you heard say that? Or maybe you yourself, that you say that you don't deserve to have that. You feel guilty about having it. Isn't that crazy? Instead of embracing it and saying, wow, this is wonderful. And if someone gives it to you, you say, thank you, thank you, thank you. It's a good energy. It's a good embracing energy. But those that have really sunk in that understanding is they feel guilty, they feel repressed. They just don't feel that they're deserving. They don't feel they're good people. This is all ego mind. It's so silly because we're all good. The God within us is pure divine perfection that never changes. The only thing that's real. Everything else has been layered around us, these bodies, everything, so that we, the gods, can experience things. That's what this is all about. So we experience things. And along the way, we rediscover the fact that we are the God in the body and what that means and how it changes everything. So in this quiet time, in this guided meditation, you may want to listen to your breath. You have no expectations and no attachments. Focus on your breath and listen to the breath. Practice this. Do it all day long. You'll look forward to going to bed at night instead of worried, stressing, afraid, and looking at the ceiling. You look forward to waking up in the morning. Because most of us will wake up in the morning and all that stuff comes flooding in again. It all does. It all comes flooding in again. And we're not exempt from it. So when you practice and you get to the point where you have perfected going into the now, your life will change completely forever. That's an absolute. Your life will change completely forever and for the better in higher frequency, sustained. And you know, it's really interesting. It doesn't cost you a penny, does it? Time. But you're already going to go to sleep and you're already going to wake up in the morning. So what do you have to lose? Nothing. You learn how to surrender. You learn how to embrace the parts of yourself that you're not really happy about, okay? But you embrace them. You understand them. You understand you and how you are. You love you deeply and eternally on how you are because you begin to go inside and discover this, all of this about you. This isn't judgment. This isn't ego mind. This is heart-minded. I'll join you in meditation, and I'll return to close us out. Take an easy and slow breath in through the nose. And an easy and slow breath out from the mouth. Remain still. Meditate on the ocean of existence. Something quite divine occurs when you stop focusing on your separate self and let your mind merge and melt into the vast ocean of existence. There is a great sea of atoms, quarks, and quantum energy. It creates this sweet soup of consciousness for you to bathe in. So take off your clothes, dive right in. Just notice how the wet, cooling qualities of the entire ocean can be found within a single drop. The greatest illusion that you can participate in is that you are just a single drop of this ocean, and that you are not also this entire ocean itself. Do not live another day in illusion. Realize that we are all deeply connected with everyone and everything on the most subtle of levels. When you focus your mind for hours on this ocean of pure consciousness, energy, that truly knows no separation, you will discover bliss. Feels so good, so amazing to be merging, melting, and totally surrendering to existence. Take this with you for the rest of the day, into the evening and night, and into the following morning. We will return here Sunday, July 9, 2023, 3:15 p.m. Eastern, to continue our global guided meditation call. Be gentle, kind, generous, and humble with yourself at all times. Be in the highest of the highest high, the deepest of the deepest deepest. Eternal gratitude at all times, no matter what is happening outside of you.